There is a fascinating and I think deeply telling study that was published in the journal Science back in 2014. Researchers at the University of Virginia wanted to explore a simple question: can people enjoy a few minutes alone with their own thoughts? What they discovered was, for many, profoundly unsettling. When faced with a choice between sitting alone in an empty room for just 15 minutes or receiving a mild but distinctly painful electric shock, 2/3 of the men and 1/4 of the women chose the shock. They actively, consciously, chose to inflict physical pain upon themselves rather than face the perceived pain of their own inner world. This isn't just a quirky statistic, it's a window into the modern psyche. It compels us to ask a question we so often avoid. What exactly are we so afraid of finding in the silence? What is this internal landscape that feels more threatening than a jolt of electricity? When you stand in an elevator and your thumb instinctively twitches towards your phone, you're not just killing time. When you walk into an empty house and the first thing you do is turn on the television, you're not just looking for background noise. These are not neutral habits. They are subtle, sophisticated rituals of avoidance. As the physician and trauma expert Dr. Gabor Mate might suggest, these are forms of self-soothing, a compulsive flight from a discomfort we can't quite name. We are running from the echoes in the quiet rooms of our own minds. We are avoiding the unprocessed emotions, the half-forgotten memories, the quiet whispers of the person we once were, or the person we have yet to become. The constant stream of external information acts as a kind of psychic buffer, a shield protecting us from the vast, often turbulent, and deeply meaningful world that exists within. So today, we're not just going to talk about the fear of being alone. We are embarking on a kind of psychological detective mission. Together, we will gently pull back the curtain on this fear, trace its origins not to a personal failing but to our deepest developmental needs, and discover how turning towards the silence, instead of running from it, can lead you to the most crucial and transformative relationship you will ever have, the one with your true self. So let's give this pattern a name. We can call it internal silence avoidance. It's important to frame it this way, as an avoidance, not a weakness or a personal failing. It is a protective strategy that has simply outlived its usefulness. It manifests as a constant, low-level hum of anxiety, a psychic static that whispers just beneath the surface of our awareness. It's not loud, but it's persistent, and it's the force that propels us toward the nearest distraction, the first available screen, the next task on our to-do list. Think about the last time you were faced with a truly empty weekend. A blank slate. 48 hours with no plans, no obligations, no one to meet. What was the very first sensation that arose in your body? Perhaps there was an initial wave of relief, a welcome exhale. But what came after? For many of us, that open space is quickly filled with a subtle sense of panic. A frantic, internal scrambling to find something, anything, to give the time shape and purpose. It's a fear of the formless, the unstructured moment where we are left with nothing but the sheer fact of our own existence. This internal conflict is not between you and the demands of modern society. The real conflict is happening within your own neurology. It's a battle between the highly evolved conscious part of your brain, the prefrontal cortex, which desires peace, reflection, and rest, and the ancient, primal architecture of your nervous system, the limbic brain, which still operates on a single, ruthless directive: survive. And for this ancient part of you, for the inner sentinel that has kept our species alive for millennia, unstructured aloneness registers as a potential threat. It screams a simple, non-negotiable code. To be isolated is to be vulnerable. To be alone is to be unsafe. This feeling isn't logical. It's biological. It's an echo of a time when separation from the tribe literally meant death. Our psyche is still running this archaic software. So, to truly understand this instinctive aversion to our own company, we have to become psychological archaeologists. We have to be willing to travel back to the very beginning, to the moment when that foundational code was first written. So, where was this primal code of aloneness equals danger first written? To find the answer, we have to travel back to the most vulnerable state a human being can experience. I want you to picture, just for a moment, the world from the perspective of an infant in a crib. Your universe is small. Your survival is not in your own hands. It is entirely dependent on the presence and attunement of another. When you feel hunger, cold, or fear, you have only one tool at your disposal: the cry. That cry is not a sign of fussiness or manipulation. It is a life or death signal broadcasted into the world. It is a biological imperative. And in those crucial, formative moments, when a caregiver responds, with warmth, with food, with a soothing touch, our developing nervous system, which is like wet cement at this age, forges a powerful and permanent equation: connection equals safety. The presence of another means survival. Conversely, the absence of that connection, the silence that follows an unanswered cry, encodes the terrifying corollary: aloneness equals danger. This is the very essence of attachment theory, a framework pioneered by the British psychoanalyst John Bowlby. He helped us understand that these first interactions don't just disappear, they form an internal working model, or what we can call an attachment blueprint. This blueprint is stamped onto our psyche and becomes the foundational lens through which we view all future relationships, especially the one we have with ourselves. And here is the crucial part: this isn't about having a bad or traumatic childhood. Even in the most loving homes, no parent can be perfectly attuned 100% of the time. Small, repeated moments of disconnect are enough to etch this lesson into our biology. So, fast forward 30 years. You are a capable, independent adult. But when you find yourself with an evening unexpectedly to yourself, a primal alarm, forged in the helplessness of infancy, can begin to ring. Your conscious mind knows you are safe. But it's not your conscious mind at the helm. It is a much older part of you, your inner child, pulling a fire alarm from a lifetime ago. This brings us to a reflective question. That feeling you call boredom, or that sudden, nagging restlessness that appears in moments of quiet, could it be that this is just the adult vocabulary for a much older, deeper, and long-forgotten terror? So, we carry this ancient, neurologically encoded blueprint within us, this deep-seated equation that aloneness equals danger. Now, let's take that primal blueprint and place it directly into the heart of the 21st century. The modern world hasn't just ignored this ancient fear. It has built a multi-trillion-dollar economy that has become exceptionally skilled at mining it for profit. Our technology, particularly the devices in our pockets, are not just distracting. They are precision-engineered to exploit this very vulnerability. To make this tangible, let's imagine a person. We can call her Maya. Maya is intelligent, capable, and successful by any external measure. Yet she lives with that familiar, low-level hum of anxiety. Her phone has become her primary tool for managing it. A like on her photo, a quick reply to a work email, a new match on a dating app. These are not just pieces of information. They are tiny digital reassurances. They are microprocessor-delivered signals to her ancient brain that say, "You are not alone. You are seen. You are connected. You are safe." The psychological mechanism at play here is astonishingly powerful, and it was famously demonstrated by the behavioral psychologist B.F. Skinner. In his experiments, a rat in a box learned that pressing a lever would sometimes dispense a food pellet. The key word is sometimes. This is called a variable reward schedule, and it is the most powerful force known for creating compulsive behavior. The rat becomes a gambler, hooked on the possibility of the next reward. Our smartphones have placed a sophisticated Skinner box into every pocket. The unpredictable nature of notifications, the chance of a new email, a text, a like, turns us all into compulsive lever pressers. But here is the profound emotional tension, the central paradox of our modern maze. Each digital ping, each fleeting notification, provides a momentary hit of dopamine. It's a temporary relief from the discomfort of being alone with ourselves. However, with each hit, it silently reinforces the foundational, damaging belief that peace, validation, and safety can only be found outside of ourselves. It's like eating candy when you're starving. It's a brief spike of energy that leaves you emptier than before. And in doing so, it makes the silence, when it inevitably returns, feel even louder, even more unbearable. So, we have established this ancient blueprint of fear and the modern maze that exploits it. This brings us to the most courageous question of all. What actually happens when we resist the urge? When the phone is deliberately placed face down on the table, when the television remains off, when we consciously choose to just sit? What is it that we truly meet in that silent, unstructured space? This is where our journey takes us into the terrain mapped by the great Swiss psychiatrist and pioneer of depth psychology, Carl Jung. What we encounter in the silence, he proposed, is our shadow. Now, the word shadow sounds ominous, like something to be feared and vanquished. But in Jungian thought, the shadow isn't evil. It is, quite simply, the unconscious repository for all the parts of ourselves that we have disowned, repressed, or deemed unacceptable. Think of your psyche as a house. We spend most of our time in the brightly lit living rooms and kitchens of our conscious personality. The shadow is the basement. It's where we've stored everything we didn't know what to do with, our insecurities, our secret resentments, our deepest regrets, our unchristian or unspiritual desires. But as Jung's brilliant successor Marie-Louise von Franz often pointed out, the shadow also contains our gold. It holds our dormant creativity, our raw power, our unlived passions, parts of ourselves we may have suppressed as children because they were deemed too much or inappropriate by our environment. The constant noise of modern life is the perfect excuse to never go down into the basement. We stay busy to avoid hearing the strange noises from below. But the moment you stop running, the moment you sit in the quiet, the door to that basement creaks open. A thought emerges, unbidden, "I'm not as successful as I should be." Or a memory surfaces with a pang of guilt, "I truly hurt that person, and I never made it right." This is the moment of conflict. The conditioned reflex, the ingrained survival strategy, is to flee, to slam the basement door shut and run back to the bright distraction of a screen. But what if, for the first time, you didn't run? What if you turned towards that uncomfortable feeling with a gentle curiosity? What if you treated it not as an enemy, but as a messenger from a lost part of yourself? What if you were to ask it, with genuine sincerity, "Why are you here now? What is it that you need me to know?" This is the heroic turning point. It is the moment you stop treating your own psyche as a monster to be contained and start treating it as a landscape to be understood. For when you do this, something remarkable happens. The shadow, once met with compassionate awareness, stops being a source of terror and begins its slow transformation into a guide. And this brings us to the core realization of our entire journey. If we have been brave enough to sit in the silence and listen to the whispers of our own shadow, we arrive at a powerful truth. The goal is not, and has never been, to defeat our fear of being alone. You cannot win a war against a part of yourself. The goal is to turn towards that fear with compassion and to integrate it. The work is to gently parent that inner child who feels unsafe and to welcome home the exiled parts of our shadow. It is, in essence, to consciously update that ancient attachment blueprint and, through practice, literally rewire the neural pathways of our own nervous system. The ultimate aim of this profound inner work is the development of what we can call emotional sovereignty. This is more than just confidence or independence. It is a state of deep psychic integration. Think of your inner world as a kingdom. An emotionally sovereign person is the wise and stable ruler of their own kingdom. They are not an isolated tyrant who builds impenetrable walls. Instead, they engage in healthy diplomacy with the outside world. They form friendships, alliances, and loving relationships. But their kingdom does not collapse if an ally leaves or if public opinion turns against them. The stability, the validation, the fundamental sense of okayness comes from within the castle walls. It is generated from within. Emotional sovereignty means your self-worth is no longer up for constant debate in the chaotic court of public opinion, or even in the opinion of those you love most. It becomes a quiet, unwavering fact. From this place, your relationships are transformed. You can love someone deeply and generously because you want to share your life with them, not because you need them to save you from yourself. You are liberated from the anxious search for an external savior, and they are liberated from the impossible task of being one. The psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor Viktor Frankl, writing from the depths of human suffering, gave us the perfect language for this state of being. He wrote, Between stimulus and response there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. In our noisy, reactive, distracted world, that space has become almost invisibly small. Solitude, true solitude, is the practice of finding that space again. It is the sacred training ground where we learn to sit with the stimulus of our own thoughts and feelings, and consciously, wisely, choose our response. It is where we reclaim our freedom. So, our psychological detective mission comes to a close. We have traveled a great distance in a short time, from the deep, foundational vulnerability of our earliest moments of attachment, through the glittering, frantic maze of the modern dopamine casino, and finally, into the profound stillness of the quiet room to meet our own shadow. Through this exploration, we can now see the fear of being alone for what it truly is, not a flaw in our character, but a sacred relic of our survival instinct, a wound from our past that is often unknowingly exploited by our present. The true work, then, is not to build higher walls or to become a detached, solitary loner. That would only be another form of avoidance. The real journey, the courageous path, is to become a whole and sovereign individual. It is the work of integrating all of our parts, the needy inner child, the disowned shadow, and the wise, conscious adult, into a unified self. It is from this place of inner wholeness and self-possession that we can finally choose connection not from a place of fear or emptiness, but from a place of fullness. We stop looking for others to complete us, and instead seek to share our completeness with them. And so, I will leave you with a gentle practice, a question to carry with you into the quiet moments of your life. The next time you feel that familiar, compulsive pull toward distraction, that urge to fill the silence with noise, I invite you to pause, take a single, conscious breath, and ask yourself with genuine kindness, what part of me am I trying not to meet right now? Whatever the answer may be, simply notice it. The act of noticing without judgment is the beginning of everything. Our journey for today ends here, but the inner work, of course, continues. If this exploration has resonated with you, if it has illuminated some quiet corner of your own inner world, then I invite you to become part of this ongoing conversation. When you take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel, you do more than just support our work. You send a small but meaningful signal into the vast digital ecosystem, a signal that there is a deep and growing appetite for these slower, more thoughtful conversations about the human psyche. You are, in effect, helping to carve out more space for depth in a world that so often rewards speed. But more importantly than that, this space belongs to all of us. I truly believe that the greatest insights often come not from a single voice, but from a chorus of shared experiences. Our comment section is not just a place for feedback, it is a space for collective witnessing. The archetypal journey we've discussed today, the fear, the avoidance, the meeting with the shadow, is universal, but its expression is unique in each of us. And so, if you feel called to, I invite you to share a piece of your own story. What is your personal relationship with solitude like? Has it been a source of anxiety, or have you found it to be a place of refuge and creativity? Your experience, your specific insight, could be the exact puzzle piece that another person listening to this needs to see their own experience in a new light. Your story has the power to make someone else feel understood. Thank you, sincerely, for your time and for the courage to think and feel alongside me today. Be gentle with yourselves on the journey inward. I look forward to seeing you in the comments.